While most fans of Schitt's Creek know how the show came to be, there's still plenty you may not realize about the series and its cast. From surprising family connections to the show's most magical musical moments, here are things that even the biggest Schitt's Creek fans may not know. Most Schitt's Creek fans probably immediately recognized Johnny Rose, as he was played by a total acting legend. The man behind the Rose family patriarch, actor Eugene Levy, found fame working on SCTV before appearing in a series of hit comedy films, such as American Pie, Best of Show, and Waiting for Guffman. And it seems Levy's comedic talents were passed on to not just one, but two of his children. Dan Levy, Eugene's son, is the creator of Schitt's Creek and also stars on the show as Johnny's son David. Eugene explained to the Los Angeles Times that he was initially nervous to work with his son, as Schitt's Creek was a character-driven show rather than a sketch show. However, he eventually decided to give it a shot. What some fans of the show may not realize is that Eugene's other child, Sarah Levy, was also central to the show, playing waitress Twyla. Co-star Annie Murphy explained on Late Night with Seth Meyers that Eugene would even mouth their lines along with them as they performed, saying, quote, he couldn't be more delighted watching his kids perform.
That is actually one of the things that I'm going to miss the very most about shooting, is watching Eugene watch Sarah and Dan.
Schitt's Creek is full of gems, but perhaps one of the greatest parts of the show is Moira's bizarre, untraceable accent.
Won't you join me for a little stroll through the slice of paradise I like to call the town where I currently am?
The accent has received loads of media attention. In 2020, a dialect coach broke down the accent for Elle, and 1 year prior, The Atlantic explored the character's truly bizarre vocabulary. As fans can attest, Moira's way of speaking is definitely one of a kind.
Okay, enough. Tonight I will make my mother's enchiladas.
Catherine O'Hara, Home Alone star and the genius comedic actress behind the character of Moira, explained to Variety that it took her some time to discover Moira's accent. Apparently, she emailed Eugene Levy about how to create the voice, but she refused to show anybody her vocal creation until the first day of filming. Levy recalled, "The first time we heard it was a knockout. Unreal."
So now you're taking Pepe to the spa.
The accent and speech patterns of Moira developed over the course of the show. In a 2019 interview with Entertainment Weekly, O'Hara said that the writers added stranger and stranger words as the show went on. Apparently, she even studied books of arcane and archaic words to help take things to the next level. Schitt's Creek is a treasure trove of quotable quips, and Annie Murphy may have coined the most popular one herself. Alexis Rose, played by Murphy, also had her fair share of unique vocal tics. In addition to her recognizable and annoying vocal fry, the character said her brother's name, David, a lot, much to fans' delight. One compilation of Alexis saying David has been viewed on YouTube over 2 million times, and you can even purchase merchandise featuring the name. As it turns out, Alexis saying David multiple times an episode wasn't originally part of the writer's plan. As Murphy explained to Variety, she never actively decided to start milking the way she said the name. Nevertheless, she had fun saying it and ended up improvising some iconic character moments. She explained, "The writers and Dan didn't stop me when I would just start littering them in every now and again."
You can't blame everything on having been pigeon-toed, David.
Oh my God.
For viewers, Alexis's rich girl voice quickly became iconic, and so did her unique mannerisms. One of Alexis's most recognizable physical tics was the way the character held her hands. As Annie Murphy explained to Harper's Bazaar, "We've come to describe Alexis's wrists thing as a T-Rex playing a piano in an old-timey saloon." As it turns out, Murphy was initially inspired by watching lots of videos of the Kardashians, Paris Hilton, and other well-off socialites. She explained, "I noticed late one night when I was probably on marijuana that a lot of these socialites carry their handbags in a very particular way, like it was casually tossed off their arm and their palm was facing up in the sky, and they would just travel around like that." Murphy made the decision to slightly change this oddball arm position to use it all the time for her character, with or without a handbag. And lo and behold, Alexis's weird hands were born. Schitt's Creek has no shortage of magical musical moments, and one of the most memorable of these is the theme song for Alexis Rose's reality TV show. On the show, Alexis performs the song called A Little Bit Alexis at her audition for the town's production of Cabaret. Fans were immediately hooked on the ridiculous jingle, as well as Alexis's out-there dance moves. When the song turned out to be a hit with viewers, A Little Bit Alexis was released in its entirety and even became a streaming hit. As it turns out, the song was actually written by Murphy herself, along with her musician husband, Menno Versteeg. She, Versteeg, and his former bandmate, Nick Boyd, all collaborated on the song, using old Britney Spears and Paris Paris Hilton songs for inspiration. Murphy told Elle, "We knew it had to be funny, and we knew it had to be kind of spoofy, but we all secretly wanted it to be a fucking banger of a song."
It's just kind of a very sexy song that you could put on at any time during the day, but particularly if you're kind of like in the mood.
I immediately added it to my makeout mix.
Yep.
It's hard to imagine Schitt's Creek with anyone but Annie Murphy tackling the role of Alexis Rose. However, as it turns out, she almost didn't get the part, and it had everything to do with something as trivial as her hair color. As Murphy explained to Variety, Dan Levy loved her from the very beginning, even sending her audition tape to his dad and co-star Eugene Levy and saying, "We found Alexis." That said, Eugene Levy had a hard time getting past her dark locks. Murphy explained, "Eugene, who's the sweetest man in the whole world, had a really hard time wrapping his head around the fact that I was a brunette. Even when Dan told his father that it would be easy to dye her hair, Eugene remained unconvinced." This led to the Levys giving Murphy another audition, this time for the brunette character Stevie. Thankfully, Dan contacted Murphy weeks later to let her know she'd scored the role of Alexis. You gotta love a happy ending. On Schitt's Creek, Emily Hampshire plays deadpan Stevie, a fan favorite that apparently changed the course of Hampshire's life. Prior to landing the role, Hampshire was going through a divorce, her agent had dropped her, she was running out of money, and she hadn't worked in a year. Hampshire spoke to Pop Sugar about how much the show transformed her life, joking, "I think it's ironic that a show called Schitt's Creek is the show that really changed my life for the better." Not only did her life improve during the show, she also discovered a lot about herself. In fact, Hampshire revealed that she ended up falling in love with a woman for the first time, entering into a relationship with musician Teddy Geiger that ended in June 2019 after a 7-month engagement. She spoke about the relationship and her exploration of her sexuality in an interview with Advocate in January 2020, saying, "I remember when I was engaged and people were saying things about me like, 'Oh, is she a lesbian?' Trying to say what I am because I was a cis woman who happened to be with a trans woman. Suddenly there was this pressure for me to pick a label. I was like, what am I? Because I don't feel like I'm anything. I just fall in love with a person I really like." If you're a Schitt's Creek fan, you know all about Moira Rose's beloved and bizarre wig collection. However, as it turns out, viewers may never have seen the strange array of wigs if it wasn't for Catherine O'Hara's creativity. O'Hara spoke about her character's wigs to Toronto Life, explaining that they were her idea. She said, "I was inspired by a woman I knew who would disappear from dinner at her home and come back with a different wig on. Thank goodness O'Hara had some wacky acquaintances in her past who could provide such spot-on inspiration for Moira." O'Hara and Schitt's Creek hairstylist Anasaurus spoke in more detail about the character's fabulous wig collection in an interview with Variety, relating that Moira had more than 100 wigs, each of which provided the option for 3 or 4 different hairstyles.
We will pick wigs sometimes just according to moods that Moira is in. I would say Moira gives the wigs personality as opposed to the other way around. Very true.
Apparently, the Schitt's Creek cast and crew are big fans of the show, too. In an interview with Variety, the Schitt's Creek cast confessed that during the final season, they started to grab various props as mementos. Dan Levy took home the first receipt from Rose's apothecary that Patrick gave David on their first date, and Eugene Levy said he took a few framed family portraits, saying, "They hold more value because they were the very first things we did on the show. We're taking these family stills, even before we started shooting." Catherine O'Hara grabbed a few mementos from Moira's wardrobe, including a few items of clothing, some jewelry, and of course, some wigs. And as for Annie Murphy, she decided to take home the prop of Alexis's college diploma with its hilarious pubic relations typo. She also grabbed some other props and joked, "It looked like I was raiding the place. We can't say we blame them. Who wouldn't want a few souvenirs from this hilarious show?" Schitt's Creek is certifiably great, but all great things must come to an end. In 2019, Dan Levy announced on Twitter that the 6th season of Schitt's Creek would be the final chapter they had envisioned from the very beginning. Unsurprisingly, the last few days on set were seriously emotional for the cast members. Levy explained to GQ, "The last day of shooting was the most emotional day I think I've ever had in my life." Apparently, Levy ended up crying for hours and documented it on Instagram. Catherine O'Hara told Variety that she also struggled to say goodbye, saying that she cried like her character had at the beginning of the show. However, the stars weren't alone in their sadness. One fan summed up the general mood, writing on Twitter, "Just cried my way through the Schitt's Creek finale and my heart is bursting and empty, and I tried to limit my tissue usage and I'm a weepy mess. Oh my heart." It's rare that a comedy series can have such a massive impact on everyone involved, but Schitt's Creek was certainly the exception. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more list videos about your favorite movies and TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.